workshop presentation. So if you look on page 7, there's an outline, an opening, a project overview, an interactive activity, some additional information, and this time goes by really, really quick. So I would say to really read the reminders on the bottom of the sheet, and the tips on page 8 are very useful to know. These are some past presenters that have included some tips on there. Are we gonna go over those two later? The tips? Am I doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And you can do it whenever you'd like. If you
Okay,
want to do it
perfect.
now.
I'll do it at the end.
Okay.
So my opening, I would start with, I'm gonna do like a little more condensed version of what I would do. So I would do an introduction. I would say, my name's Natasha Kalnicki, I work at Pulaski. The objective of this presentation is to teach you all about student-led conferencing and how you can readily adapt that in your classroom right away this upcoming report card pickup. You can start with like an icebreaker if you'd like. You can have people signing in during that time. Like Sarah said, there might be a line, so I left my door open, but it's up to you if you just want to close your door and just not put your sign to like not interrupt, or just hand out the sign-in sheet and let it go around. I would start with like a little icebreaker, so I'm gonna do a little icebreaker with you guys. Hope you're ready. It's not too bad. Okay. So it's called Raise Your Hand. So raise your hand if this is your first year of teaching. Raise your hand if you've taught for 5 years or less. Ooh, raise your hand 10 years or less. 20 years, 15. Okay. Raise your hand if you've taught in a different state. Nice. Raise your hand if you're tired today. Yeah. Try to make it interactive and fun. Raise your hand if you've had an interesting start of the school year this year. Okay. Raise your hand if you've done student-led conferencing before. Raise your hand if you've had some knowledge of student-led conferencing or have heard of it. Perfect. Raise your hand if you got a hug from a student today. Raise your hand if you believe in your students. Right. So I would say that doing student-led conferencing, it's you have to be a risk taker. You have to take some risks. I did it with second graders, and I was the first person to do it in my school. I just wanted to autopilot and just see how it goes, and it worked out really well. I was very organized and detailed in my planning, and I was able to implement it. I was able to get really good feedback from my students and my parents and my administration. It's something that I highly recommend. So that would kind of be like my introduction and my project overview. Then I would go straight into modeling an activity. So it's however you would like to do it. I have a PowerPoint where I discuss like what is student-led conferencing, what is the difference between student to parent. There's different types of conferencing, and I would show pictures of my students and just the process of what that looks like. Because my goal is for them, for my people who are attending my workshop to like readily apply this next report card pickup. So I provide them with all the tools necessary in order to implement this. I have all my handouts ready. I show them pictures. We talk about the process of student-led conferencing and what I do on a day-to-day to get me ready to that point. And then at the end, you could either show a video, or we really want teachers to actually actually model it. So I can have 3 of you be a mom and a dad and a student and kind of role play, so that you kind of get a sense of like how you would prepare that, and then how you would switch roles and practice. The kids really embrace that. I have like sentence stems for them, and they're like, well, I see that you have an F here. Can you tell me more about that? And they really prepare on like their responses and what they're gonna say, and we really practice on this. And we do this probably like 2 weeks in advance, and I collect a lot of information so that they could show their parents. During workshop, I also showed a little video because I felt like it was gave a little clear description of my objective for my particular workshop. And then at the end, I provided them with all the worksheets necessary in order to start implementing this, and I gave them some working time. I had a calendar, and I said, well, I walked around, and people started planning their first couple of weeks and how they were going to start gathering that data and how they were going to implement it. And then that part of my section became a Q&A where I was able to clarify if any particular circumstances that might have, that might happen at their school, like do they need administrative permission? Is it something you think I could just do? Or what if my kids are not ready? Those questions do come up. So I would just say have time for that Q&A. It's very important to provide that time and just like an open forum for everybody to talk about it. And I would suggest that too. And on your presentation outline, it's just about 5 minutes. Like I said, this time goes by pretty quickly. So the role playing, the modeling, a video, actually playing the games, actually doing the yoga, that would definitely be beneficial so that they could readily apply it. I think that majority of our visitors come to see something that they could readily apply. Besides that, just again, read the reminders, don't procrastinate, please, make sure that you're ready for it. Also, things happen, so it's okay if you don't have enough copies or if you run out of copies, just get an email. We're here to try to make this experience as easy for you. So if you need anything, just grab somebody with that has a volunteer sticker and we'll help you. Besides that, the tips from the former CFE presenters on page 8. Things that are appealing, I was telling somebody, sometimes teachers are like the worst students. So just make it engaging, right? You want to make sure that they're fun and that they, you have their attention and that it's like a quick in and out and informative. That's what I love about workshop, that it's just like a quick informative session. Any questions on that? I'm not going to read through this because I feel like you guys. And then, are you going to talk about the presentation planning worksheet?
I think you can